Kia ora, bros and girls, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to jump into Chapter 1, Map 2 of the Uncollected Quest. We're going to have a look, maybe I can switch my team up a little bit. Might bring in Nebula, and don't want to keep Star-Lord. Maybe Iceman. Anybody else that's gonna help me out? Nah, I think that's okay. Yeah, we'll just bring in the Iceman and Nebula instead. Just to have a couple of double immunes for this one. So let's have a look at these paths. We've got plain vanilla. We have pessimist path, and then on the other leg we have tank buster, and we have arc overload. Okay, so I'm probably going to take Arc Overload, to be honest. That seems to be the hardest of the four, and the boss is normally pretty straightforward. So let's get rid of this line while we're exploring together. Good thing that we're up against Psylocke and Mutant first, so we can finish a mission. Arc Overload is probably not really going to come into play here, to be honest, because it takes 20 seconds for the Arc Overload to kick in, and in 20 seconds with Corvus, Psylocke will be dead or close to dead. So, yeah, the Arc Overload is going to be the hardest line if it triggers, but it probably isn't going to trigger. If you're running if you don't have an R4 champ and it takes a lot more time and it triggers, you're just going to be in for a bit of a longer fight, or you might have to deal with someone or you might have to bring in someone who either is going to block that arc overload, so heal blocker, or someone who's going to reverse it like Void. But yeah, for us, we could just use Corvus Glaive and get rid of these guys, and then see what boss awaits us. So far so smooth. Psylocke down, she's pretty easy. Cable down. His SP1 is a bit tricky to evade, to be honest, but it's all good. Infinity, man, this line could be quite nasty actually if you're not quite set up for it, because you have both Iron Man, Infinity War, Iron Man. Depends on which way you want to put it, and then Kingpin, and both those fights can be quite annoying. Not so much with the Corvus, but also because I've got this energy to get a true strike with if he auto blocks, but just in general they can be quite annoying if you haven't dealt with them, or if you don't have the right champs to counteract Iron Man Infinity War. So he's still a bit of a nightmare boss on some nodes. So Kingpin is kind of more of the same. So there was that intel quest, the Nick Fury's Recon Initiatives, and he was a bit of a nightmare boss, and it comes down to the fact that he can convert all these debuffs that he gets on him to rage. So you really can't debuff him per se, and then after a while he's kind of got constant limber, and after a while he goes overpowering, he goes unblockable, he becomes unstoppable. He's a bit annoying. He's a bit tricky to play around. I find the best way against him is to kind of just maybe push and head into his block, try to get him up to his SP1, and then once he's at SP1, he's pretty easy. You just cycle through the SP1, evade that, and deal with him. But he can be a bit annoying if you're unfamiliar with Kingpin. So that would be my way around him. So next up we have Thor. Thor is a pretty straightforward fight. We're going to take Corvus in, maybe pick up an Avenger charge if we haven't already. I think we already have picked it up actually, but we're going to see anyway. So yeah, so far, I mean, all these fights are taking less than 20 seconds, so we're not really struggling with the whole arc overload thing. We could have taken Cred Buster line. It doesn't really matter in the first chapter. So Winter Soldier. I still don't know how to evade his SP2. I know how to evade his SP1 like a boss because I've done a little bit of time in Realm of Legends, and he's the first boss, and you kind of take a lot of people in there to test, and eventually, even if you don't know how to, you eventually figure out how to evade that first SP. The second one, though, not so much, so I've still got to work on that for a little bit. But yeah, so let's continue here. Probably a couple more fights from the boss. Take that. Pick up the potion. And oh yeah, might use a little bit of energy as well. Yeah, and let's go to the boss. So the boss is Hood. So that doesn't seem so bad. He's not terrible to fight. How you doing, Hood? You got 100 attack health, crit damage. He's more defensive. Oh, he's got Biohazard and Nanoplague. Right, so if you're a robot, instead of suffering a poison, you would suffer a shock. That's kind of annoying. The Biohazard is pretty normal. Tyranny as well, so only villains gain power. The Biohazard is a bit tricky, but I'm going to use Corvus here to play around with it. So I know Biohazard consists of kind of like a 50% bleed, a 50% poison, but the poison only activates if you hit into his block. If you just hit into him when he's open, then that could activate a bleed. That has a chance to activate a bleed. But of course, with charges, Corvus is immune to bleed. He's not immune to poison though. So long as we don't hit into his block and keep our charges up, then we basically can play around as if we are immune. We're not immune, but as if we are immune. But that's also the reason I brought Iceman and Nebula, because sometimes you need them. So yeah, that's a pretty straightforward fight. Evade the SP1, bring in an immune. If you don't have Corvus and you don't want to play around the Biohazard, just bring like a robot, bring Ultron, Nebula, Iceman, someone who can deal with that. Yeah, I mean Nebula would be the best here as well because she's a bit shock immune, but also Iceman because he wouldn't get that shock, he would just get that poison. So yeah. Hopefully it helped you guys out. If it did, like, subscribe, leave a comment, or if you're struggling, let me know and I'll see what I can do to help. Kakitiano, we'll see you in the next one.